Hello everybody, my name is Mabami Griffith. I'm the Executive Director of the European Association of Zoos and Aquaria, IAZA. We represent over 400 zoos and aquariums across Europe and Western Asia. And I'm delighted to be able to share with you today our poster and this short video giving a range of examples on how visiting a zoo and aquarium can help people get involved in conservation. We recognise that there are lots of different ways in which this can occur, and we've tried to highlight them in this video. The examples that we've taken, both in our video and our poster, have come from not just our IAZA member zoos, but other zoos and aquariums across the world. And I'd like to thank everybody that shared their great examples with us. Hopefully, by the end of this video, you'll get a really good idea of all the opportunities that are possible. So in terms of what we're looking at from a conservation perspective, I think we're all aware that the current conservation challenges are quite vast. And if we really want to address them, if we want to make some good impact in terms of saving species and the habitats in which they live in, we need as many people as possible to get involved. And zoos and aquariums are uniquely placed to do this. We provide numerous opportunities to engage visitors and empower them to act. Within our IAZA membership alone, we have 145 million visits to our members every year. This is a great opportunity to share conservation challenges and indeed solutions to them, so that we're all able to work together to make a positive impact. And indeed, there are lots of different ways we can do this. And given the time that we have, we're just looking in three key areas of action: financial support, behaviour change, and then actions and advocacy. Our aim as part of this poster is to showcase these range of opportunities and really encourage further interactions between zoos, aquariums, and citizens to maximise our collective conservation impact. And indeed, as I said at the very start, conservation challenges facing us today are vast, and we need to work together. So actually, even if you are a conservation NGO, somebody who's doing on-the-ground conservation work, this is also an opportunity for you to interact with your local zoo or aquarium to see how you can become part of this solution and work with the zoo and the visitors. There may be some opportunities here for you as well. So we really like to share a lot of examples and highlight the opportunities of different options that can take place. So if we start off, of course, just visiting a zoo and aquarium, people are donating money to that institution that the zoo themselves can then use in their conservation work. But what we're seeing is more and more wanting to do over and above that, really making a kind of additional efforts to maximise the opportunities that people have to get involved in conservation. And one of the examples for that is what we might call a species conservation euro, or indeed the denomination of your choice. There's a range of different German zoos here, as examples, that have done this, where you add a euro to the entrance price, and that then goes directly into field conservation of projects chosen by the zoo. This is a great opportunity to gain additional funds for valuable conservation projects, but also help visitors see that their money is going directly into particular areas of conservation that they may have particular interest in. And just to give an example, a little bit more detail, as we're in France here, we've got an example of one of our French member zoos, Parc Amère d'Auvergne, and they had the aim to raise 100,000 euros in a year, largely from this Euro Nature, adding this €1 to the conservation fee, to the entrance fee, sorry. But of course, also, there's a whole range of other things that they did to reach that total. As you can see here, they had endangered species days, they looked to have a particular children's trail, donation boxes, etc. So really what we're looking at here is this additional financial support being part of that puzzle of bringing together lots of different streams to help conservation. And in this case, they were really, really successful. From their 2019 period, they raised over their target of 100,000 euros. The less said maybe about 2020 and the fact that the majority of zoos and aquariums needed to be closed, and for a large part of that, the less said about that, the better perhaps. But the zoo is committed to this conservation work, committed to working with their visitors to direct conservation actions together. And so for 2021, they've set this great target. They've increased it to 130,000 euros. And when we checked back in with them in July, they'd already raised over 50,000. So doing really well. And again, really enabling visitors to see how their additional €1, which might seem like a small amount per person, when we gather it together, it's a vast amount that can go into conservation work. Of course, what we really want to do as well is not just take the money from visitors and put it towards the conservation projects that they maybe are not then aware of or don't know so much about. But we really want to engage in a good dialogue and give visitors choices about how they're spending their money. And there's lots of different examples, but I wanted to give one from another part of the world here. Auckland Zoo in New Zealand has a whole range of different ways that people can donate specifically to projects or conservation areas of their choice. And these are other ways in which visitors can help feel more involved in the work of the zoo, and that their conservation spend is going to places where they are aware of, and they can feel more engaged and kind of moving their money towards areas that they feel most connected to. And there's lots of other examples I could share. The other thing, of course, in terms of over and above donation money, is actually needing to change behaviour. A lot of the problems facing animals and their habitats these days are largely caused by human influence. And what we want to look to try and do is change our behaviours and work with those millions of visitors that come to zoos and aquariums each year, so that collectively we can have a better impact. And there's lots of different ways we can do this. Something that's very common, and we see more and more, is in terms of recycling of phones. This is not only helping reduce waste, but also taking important minerals from those phones and recycling them, so that we have to take less minerals from the wild habitats where animals such as gorillas live. And then that can also help, of course, from that larger conservation action. This is something that's fairly easy to do. You can bring your phone to the zoo. It's a practical aspect of behaviour change in terms of getting into the habit of recycling those phones. What can sometimes be a little bit more difficult is trying to enact and work with people to change their behaviour once they've left the zoo or aquarium. And Zoos Victoria have been doing this very well. They're based in Australia, and one of their earliest campaigns was called Wipe for Wildlife. And this was working with the people that came to the zoos to encourage them to switch to recycled toilet paper. There was a lot of great work that went on to try and work out what the barriers were to this, because of course what we're asking here is for people, when they go away from the zoo and aquarium, to change an aspect of their life. And that can be quite hard for anybody to make a behaviour change. Anybody's had to do that, you'll be well aware of that. And so there's a lot of great activities going on at the zoo here to kind of make sure that message was carried on when people left the zoo, to give them good reasons, to give them good ways to help make that change. And also, of course, then working with producers to help make sure that there were options of recycled toilet paper available for people to buy. So what might seem a small thing in terms of behaviour change for visitors can become a much larger element in terms of working with producers as well. So it's not just the people that are visiting the zoo that are able to make a change working with the zoo, but also the zoo and then producers as well. And then that brings us on to another example here from Zoo Saint-Martin-la-Plaine, who are looking to raise awareness about consumption choices on biodiversity. So there's a whole range of different activities and products going on here to help make people more aware of the different consumer choices that they have, and making positive choices that are going to enable conservation. And this can be a whole range of different activities that go on within the zoo, and encourage people to take those pieces of information and change those activities when they go back home as well. And this again is a lovely way for everybody to be involved in making changes that are going to support conservation. And the third and last area that I wanted to talk about, you'll have seen some great examples in our poster, is areas on action and advocacy, where our visitors and indeed general citizens can help get involved hands-on in conservation actions and advocacy. And often these actions can be directly with the zoo, or indeed with the zoo and partners that are going on that the zoo has. So there's a nice range of examples here again from Auckland Zoo, where they do direct community conservation themselves, but also direct visitors into a lot of the work that's going on already. We don't need the zoo to reinvent the wheel, as it were. If there's great conservation work going on by other NGOs, then the zoo can help be a great conduit to direct information and attention to those causes. And ways that people can get involved are very, very numerous. A lot of things to do is, say, for example, invitation to join beach cleanups. There can be some nice examples here from Fauna Zoo, where they have found this extremely rare endemic frog in Costa Rica, found it actually on the zoo site, and were able to help take tadpoles from the site into the zoo area, breed them up, and then work with the visitors to think about release programs so that we're able to increase the populations. So really some great ways that visitors can work with the zoo to see the conservation work the zoo is involved in, but also get involved in it themselves, hands-on, by being able to get involved in either cleanups or release programs. Another great example here from Cali in Colombia, looking to restore native habitat. It doesn't always need to be the animals that the zoo or aquarium is focusing on. Of course, that's a large part of our work, but obviously we recognise that if we want to have healthy animals, they need healthy habitats as well. And so they've restored over 18 hectares with a range of their volunteers, planting a whole range of native trees and really involving the community in these conservation actions. So again, a great example of how the zoo and their local communities are working together in partnership for conservation. Another great way, an example here that's a great threat to conservation of species is wildlife trafficking. And this is where a nice example here from Taronga Zoo, who has been working with technology in terms of developing this wildlife witness app. And so this is an app that people can download on their phones and then can use if they see potential areas that they feel may be illegal animal trafficking when they're out and about or on their holidays, or if they have concerns. It can all be channeled through the app in terms of making sure things are done safely and not putting people at risk. And then there is digital technologists that are able to track that information and look to see trends, look to report information if needed to the authorities, and help manage to get a picture of where wildlife trafficking is occurring and some of the challenges and evidence that might be required to address it and to stop it. And so this is enabling people outside of the zoo to be part of that global conservation community looking to address some very big challenges. And we wouldn't be able to have that sort of manpower, those eyes on the ground everywhere, if we didn't have this great engagement with the visitors and their abilities to go out and do this work as part of their general lives. And one last area as well in terms of action and advocacy as part of this piece here is an example from Wellington Zoo, and they then also will give grants to local conservation programs. So this is another way where the zoo is able to enable more conservation work through partnership, through cooperation with the local community. So lots of great examples there of direct action for conservation. And also, of course, those millions of visitors have a great voice, and that's where we come on to the advocacy element in terms of encouraging producers to maybe change, moving towards more recycled toilet paper, like that White for Wildlife example I gave, or indeed making more sustainable products. And IAZA as an organisation has been able to use these elements to run a variety of conservation campaigns where we're able to share information amongst our hundreds of members, and they can share it further with their visitors so that we're able to raise awareness, and not just for funds. Over 5 million raised for a variety of conservation projects specific to the different campaigns that we've run over the year. But largely we've been also able to use those campaigns to act as a catalyst for regulatory changes. And so this is where the advocacy comes in. One of the very first campaigns we did was in relation to stopping bushmeat trade and managing the information that is given that might help the bushmeat trade happen and stop that. And we had over 100,000 petitions go towards the European Union to change some of the legislation there. And this is only possible through the great relationship that we have with the visitors that come to IAZA members. Also, as part of the World Conservation Congress, you may well have seen that as part of our Silent Forest campaign, we were also able to put information together into our motion on songbird trafficking. So again, using the information that we have amongst our communities and the broader people that are involved within our work to help bring about some advocacy and some potential change there. We also, of course, want to think about what people can do on the local scale, and so encouraging people to get involved in their own biodiversity projects, and also, again, things about advocacy in terms of the example here in the middle of your screen on Pull the Plug was actually not a fundraising campaign, but more about encouraging people to reduce their energy consumption, to pull the plug on their electronic devices. And part of that was not only a behaviour change for energy savings, but also we were able to get together petitions that went to the Paris COP in terms of climate change. So again, great ways for zoos and aquariums and their visitors to work together to help make good conservation actions. And what we like to do as IAZA, and indeed for other zoo organisations around the world, is collect that information together, and we look to record it in our conservation database so that we're able to see how all of this joint work and conservation collaboration is making a difference. And so we're able to gather that data in our conservation database with a whole range of different members adding their information, working with a whole range of partners. As I said at the very beginning, conservation work is all about collaboration. And you can see that over time, we're seeing more and more working together across all areas of the globe and a whole range of species. So I very much hope you've enjoyed this little insight into the different ways visiting a zoo and aquarium can help conservation. If you want to find out more about IAZA and our work, you can find us on our website and the social media channels there as well. And indeed, if you'd like to come and visit us in person, we will be on the AFdPZ stand on the 6th of September between 9:30 and 1:30, and that stand is in Hall 3, stand number C18. Please do reach out to your local zoo and aquarium, find out what they're doing for conservation, find out how you can join them so that we can all work together to save species.